What is up, everybody? It is Alex from Heavy New York. We are on the tour bus outside of Irving Plaza, and we return round 3 with Mike of the Devil Wears Prada. Great to be able to talk with you today, man. Thanks for being here.
Good to see you again. Thanks, pal.
Anytime. It's always great to be able to talk with you. We got the brand new album Color Decay coming out very, very soon. Being that this is a brand new full-length album, was this just kind of like a direct continuation of the act, or is this, being that you released an EP in between then, this is almost kind of like a new beginning in a way for Devil Wears Prada?
I think it definitely takes from parts from both the act and Z2. I think COVID kind of forced us to utilize the remote setting a little bit more versus the act, obviously, because we wrote the song over the lockdown and the pandemic and everything. So I don't know. I think a bit of it is a continuation of what we started doing with the act in terms of John producing and songwriting and really being the sort of master force behind the whole project and all the songs. So I don't know. I kind of just feel like it's as much of an evolution, not to be super cliche, but just as much of an evolution for us as, you know, things have been over the first record through however many now.
Yeah. I mean, with the first 4 singles that we heard so far, is that maybe a good representation of what the entirety of Color Decay will sound like, or is that just the tip of the iceberg?
You know, there are slower moments. People get real bummed out when you release slower songs as singles, so we didn't do that. But there are some in there. The next one that will be coming out is, I think, the closest to kind of a ballad vibe as we've had. I don't know. I think we've kind of touched a number of bases with the singles we've released. Sacrifice is pretty middle of the road. Watchtower was like very intentionally like a kind of mid-late 2000s metalcore song, just like get in, get out. But yeah, I think the singles do a pretty good job of showing what the record comprises, and I don't know. I'm excited for people to hear the more extremes and different hooks for songs like Trapped in Cancer versus like the industrial jam.
When you look at the entirety of the Devil Wears Prada catalog, and I've mentioned, we've talked before on how, like, you know, sometimes you look at your older material differently, but do you feel that maybe, like, as you evolve as an artist, that maybe the music or even the meanings of it also evolve with you, or do you prefer if every album is almost kind of like a representation of who you are at that particular time?
I think it actually is sort of the opposite. I think as I've gotten older, it's become less of a representation of me and more of the voicing of sort of like the way I've kind of phrased it before is not so much as like zooming in on the lens, but zooming out and speaking out for sort of a more abstract way and trying to speak for more people than just my lone, very specific, you know, situations I've been through and whatnot. But at the same time, you know, the song like 25 on there is a breakup song for me, so there's definitely a level of very honest catharsis to the tunes. But at the same time, something that John has really instilled is, you know, writing songs to speak not just so much to like a strict level of catharsis, but to a wider base.
Yeah. And I'd imagine too, when you like look back at it and you examine your evolution, you are the same person, but it is just like, do you almost like feel different when if you were to sing like an older song like Rosemary Had an Accident, for example, or Hey John, What's Your Name Again? Do you feel differently singing that now as opposed to when you were singing it, 15 years or so years ago?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I've sort of joked before that Donald Trump stole my faith, but it's somewhat accurate. So I don't know. You know, obviously, Christian theology was a huge part of our band for a long time, and that's very present in the old songs, you know, playing songs like Dogs and Hey John and even Mammoth and whatnot. But I don't know. I guess I kind of separated from a way I never shied away from my own level of sincerity and honesty into the songs. And, you know, at the same time, it's okay to change, and oftentimes that's what happens when you get older.
And speaking of like older work, but last year was 10 years of Death Throne, and next year's going to be 10 years of 818. Would you almost look at that as differently as you look at way older material now, or would you almost consider that in a way still like a new era of Devil Wears Prada? And I'm sorry if that made you feel old.
No. There's plenty to make me feel old. I almost kind of feel like it's to me, almost like the beginning of the band becoming more of like a sharpened, honed-in tool in terms of working with different producers and whatnot, and expanding our sort of vision and our scope as to what the songs would be. And I always look back fondly on songs like 818 or Chicago from Dead Throne and whatnot. I've always liked slowing it down and giving the record more of a dips and dives rather than, you're just screaming at 11 the whole time. So I don't know. I kind of look at it in my own way, like as the middle Prada, but at the same time, just we were so young, for Dear Love, Plagues, and With Roots that I kind of sort of just glance over that a bit as far as like it's a long time ago from then.
So you don't look at your roots the same way that Max Cavalera looks at his roots, or
no, correct.
One thing that I've noticed that's changed a lot with the Devil Wears Prada over the years, first seeing you in 2010, was actually how you've also evolved as a frontman in terms of your performance, because the last couple times I've seen you, you're also playing guitar when I see you live now. Do you almost feel that maybe you portray yourself a little differently as a frontman too, as opposed to, earlier days as well?
Yeah, I mean, I'm always open to influence. I consider myself more of a music consumer than a music maker on most days of the week, so I'm going to steal like anyone, will steal from favorite artists or favorite heroes in the scene or whatever, but I don't know. I kind of, the way I've been wording it and talking to people about Color Decay is like, it's not trying to get outside metalcore, it's trying to bring things into metalcore. And for me, I think that's the same way as far as like, sure, I know people appreciate Z2 as far as like a pretty straightforward, very like full throttle vocal performance from me, but at the same time, like it's usually my favorite moments is when I get to try to expand my range a little bit rather than like hearing the same exact like voicing and enunciation for every word. So yeah, I it doesn't get easier singing as you get older. In some ways, I guess it does. Some ways it doesn't. But I don't know. I don't think there's ever an excuse for not trying to develop or trying to add an additional tool to the toolbox.
Definitely. And I actually spoke with Jeremy about this last year too, is because to me one of the ultimate sounds of the Devil Wears Prada is the vocal contributions that both you and Jeremy bring to the fold. I think it really brings everything together. When it comes to either writing the lyrics or tracking the vocals or even performing on stage, do both of you maybe have to kind of be in a similar frame of mind or in a similar headspace in order to kind of make the song like kind of a little more consistent in a way, for lack of better words?
No one's ever asked me that. Kudos to you. I try to follow Jeremy as much as possible because he's the he's the less distorted, scrambly one. I feel like it more benefits the band and the performance to hear me running off of him rather than him running off of me, especially because I like to change things during performances a little more and change phrasings where for his voice and his singing and his parts, I think it makes more sense to really kind of go by the book and go by what the record did and, how John and Jeremy and I write his vocal parts. So I don't know. I think I try to lock into Jeremy as much as I can live, and especially with, Color Decay being like very unapologetically Jeremy heavy, and Jeremy sings a lot on this record, and through our, the trajectory of our band, Jeremy sang more and more and more. When we have certain choruses that he's just so boldly like the front man of per se, then when I get in there recording, I'm trying to sort of I'm not a singer, but I'm trying to mimic the sort of overtones that he's singing. So I try to follow Jeremy pretty regularly when him and I are like singing something together, or I'm trying to like kind of spice up something he's doing, if it's kind of like a minimal verse. But yeah, it'd probably be a catastrophe if it was trying to follow me, because I tend to just do what I want.
Well, it's funny you mention that, because I've asked bands with multiple singers this, and whether it would be Lacuna Coil or As They Lay Dying or whatever, it almost seems like, having two singers brings, I don't want to say different obstacle because it's a cool thing to have, but like, you as a vocalist could do your own thing, the guitar players and drummers can always go off and do their own thing, but when you're singing together and harmonizing, I think that there has to be maybe consistency with either in the tone or even the lyrical themes. I remember looking at when I first saw the lyrics to Ben Has a Kid, I saw not just contrast in the voice but also in the lyrical themes as well. So I think I really just, that's how I describe the Devil Wears Prada. It wears contrast. So
I appreciate that. We like to layer up. We like to go different places, and I think you'll even hear that, like, I don't know, like playing like Contagion during this. At the end of it, Jeremy's running over the verse, and I'm just like doing my own thing leading into the breakdown that finishes the EP. So I don't know. I always loved that in like Norma Jean as a kid, or like Converge or something, as far as voices just going against each other and just sort of creating a big textured mess.
yeah, a sing-off maybe. Now, this may be a bit of a silly question, but I've heard you reference metalcore before, and I love having this debate because I feel like metalcore is like the most overused kind, because like I ask people what is metalcore, 9 times out of 10 they say it's music that has singing and screaming in it, but does that make Opeth a metalcore band, or Fear Factory, or Soilwork to you? And you know, with all bands that are labeled metalcore, I see big differences between a band like you or Killswitch Engage or Converge or Every Time I Die for that matter. Do you think that there has to be maybe like a certain element that ties in all the metalcore bands together?
I think the era speaks to it to some level. I think the sort of proportions of it speak to it, as far as how often you're using, you know, one voice versus another. I think, well, yes, it would be kind of hard to find a metalcore band that that only offers screaming. You know, that's probably either going to be more like a hardcore band, or like probably over to like a, you know, death metal band or something. But I kind of like come back to the riffs, like Converge being an example of like, is it metalcore or not? And I'm never going to give my opinion or so much, because people act up so much. But I think it comes back to the song arrangements too. I think choruses are really important for one reason in metalcore, in that which, you know, some of the more like epic sing screamy bands don't use so much conventional songwriting, and that doesn't suit what they want to do. So yeah, I mean, I guess try to make it a short answer. I can never make an answer short.
Which I'm, as a journalist, thank you for that.
I think, well, yes, singing and screaming are a necessary component. I think it goes beyond that, and it goes to the song arrangements, the riffs and whatnot too. Synthesizers usually make a big part, and a different layer of production versus something really scaled back like Converge or ETID, you know, that doesn't have like either a keyboard player, some bullshit backtrack playing a studio's worth of things, you know, like some shitty pop band. I think that speaks to what makes metalcore too.
Definitely. And I've noticed with the Devil Wears Prada too, and I mean this is a great compliment, is that, you know, for a long time I've always thought that I would have a sound that defined, but you guys have gotten more experimental, and I've even seen different sides of you as a vocalist when you put out God Alone and all those projects, and the acts just made me continuing not knowing what to expect from who you are. Do these ideas of what you want to incorporate, whether it would be in Devil Wears Prada or God Alone, does it come off with like a preconceived vision, or do like the ideas just strike when you least expect it sometimes?
It can kind of be both. I mean, God Alone hasn't done anything for years, but when Kyle and I were active with it, there was definitely like some sort of creative instinct in me that could see something and go like, that's a tune, like that's something I want to go with. I think otherwise, yeah, it kind of it can be a mood or whatnot, you know, like Color Decay we recorded ourselves, besides the drums, remotely out in outside Joshua Tree in like Palm Desert, Palm Springs, California. And you know, there's some days where you don't want to wake up and hit the notebook, you know, and start working on a song that you've been putting off for 5-10 days. So, you know, you kind of fight through it. You fight through the block when you have to, and then other times, you know, you kind of come to an idea and you have it 20 minutes and you have 2 verses and a chorus done, you know. So I think it kind of hits a different way. I guess if it was more consistent, I would almost be grateful, but that's not really the not the really the way it goes for me, at least.
Definitely. And I have two more questions for you. I actually interviewed Jeremy last year to promote Zombie 2, but I did want to kind of get your perspective on this because Zombie 2 is sentimental to me in the way that was the first record cycle I've ever saw Devil Wears Prada, and was actually at this venue, as I told you before we started rolling. Do you feel like, but it's been 10 years. I was in 10th grade when Zombie came out, and it's been decades now. People are just discovering it. Do you almost consider the Zombie series to almost be kind of like a fundamentally secular part of the Devil Wears Prada catalog? Like, do you almost feel like a listener needs to listen to Zombie 1 in order to get the concept of Zombie 2, like Lord of the Rings in a way, or like?
That's another good question. No, like, if you could call the Devil Wears Prada, like, oh, that's the band that covered Stillfly, I would find offense in that, and I would be insulted. If you said Devil Wears Prada is the one that makes, like, gimmicky themed EPs, like, sure, I guess it's a gimmick to some degree, but I would wear that almost as pride. Like, that was something we started doing, and again, we kind of wear it as a badge of honor, in that I just haven't seen bands do it the way that, doing Zombie and Space Shit the way we do. So, I mean, I don't think you need to know Z1 to know Z2. I think, again, I'm happy to if someone wants to call the Devil Wears Prada the band that releases EPs or songs about zombies. But a part I think that's really fun about it is that you don't have to, like, hit the dictionary or, meditate on the song's meanings. I never wanted any of the zombie themes to ring as cheesy, but at the same time, they're not thinkers. There's, like, people, like, we released Zombie 1 and people were like, is this all metaphor for, like, something with Jesus or something? We're like, no, like, so, I don't know. I think you can listen to Z2 without Z1, and, I think that also kind of just rings as a part of, like, which one's better? Or, like, I don't know. I don't care. Like, what's that say? It just doesn't matter to me. So, yeah.
Is it fair to say, like, maybe it's, like, less metaphorical? Because I wasn't until I first interviewed you in 2018 that I knew that all the names in With Roots Above was a dedication to the crew, which to this day is one of my favorite discoveries I've ever made in an interview. But, like, would you almost say that Zombie is a little more literal and a little bit more kind of upfront about what it's about in a way?
For sure, yeah. I mean, we do the meet and greets for this tour, and someone asked me if Nora from Z2 is the survivor on Zombie 1. I was like, not a bad idea, but no, that's not that's not the case. I had considered doing Survivor Part 2, but that didn't come to fruition. But yeah, I think it's entirely literal. There's nothing. I don't know. Maybe if I scoured the lyrics or something, I might have a funny story that's a little under the surface. But for the most part, it's surface deep, I would say.
Yeah, I love it though when a band has like a kind of like a sidestep to where, like, when you have a full bunch of full-length albums that stand out on their own, but it almost I've always called, if you're using video game references, I've always called EPs the side quests. So
yeah, I don't know. We, like, doing the EPs were cool, and then it was just a matter of, like, well, we don't want to do records. So, we did the South of the City 7-inch. We did the Julian Baker cover, and I'm sure there will be some to be released that I can't talk about, but there will be more things that are just not, a 12-song full length.
And we look forward to hearing all of them. And the final question I wanted to ask you is, I've talked about Devil Wears Prada playing with a variety of different bands, but I've also seen Devil Wears Prada play at a variety of different venues as well. Between people being able to crowd surf and stage dive to a place like here or Gramercy that more there's more of a barricade. It's a bigger environment. Would you almost say that, like, depending on the venue that you're playing in, that maybe that also changes the vibe of a Devil Wears Prada experience?
For sure. I mean, I think that, playing an amphitheater at 6:30 staring into the sun is not the epitome of a great Prada show.
Referencing Mayhem Fest?
Yeah, like Mayhems, and, like, I'm always grateful to have these awesome opportunities, but some days, you're dealt a hand that's pretty difficult to make the most of and try to give the best representation of your band, and, if you fail to give a good representation, then that's only your fault. You just have to live to the challenge. But I don't know. I like playing. I like mixing it up. Like, I can't imagine ever, like, if the band was like a dive bar band, like, if we would then hate playing like a House of Blues, or if we were like a House of Blues band and like we roll into a dive bar and be like, I want to go home, I'm gonna kill myself or something. Yeah. Or you're selling 6,000-7,000 tickets and you're playing amphitheaters and sheds, and you would then hate the idea of playing a House of Blues. I just love variety, and I think really it just kind of offers a different challenge to give the consumer a good hour of entertainment, or however long it's going to be. Certain rooms are more conducive for it. I don't think I can ever have like a small stage and be like, that was the best performance I could possibly give. It rarely works that way for me, but I think in terms of like Prada vibe, it shows like the room plays a lot, but I think also just the geographics of it too, like rural shows just being like sweaty dirt fests, and then you play like, I don't know, places where everyone's a bit tidier, and whatnot, or you go to like different places where everyone smells, like culturally people smell. I don't know. I think it all contributes, and again, like I need the sort of Alamo, the mixture of everything.
Yeah, definitely. And I, like you said, I think variety is just how you define the Devil Wears Prada in terms of your sound, the bands you play with, the places that you play with, and even your fans. I've met people who, like, you would never think were Devil Wears Prada fans, and you would meet some like metal elitists, wearing their death metal shirts and all that, and they'd be like, yeah, I really like Devil Wears Prada. Don't tell anyone. Yeah. So I think diversity is just the ultimate one word to describe Devil Wears Prada, in my opinion.
I appreciate that. I mean, metal can be so goddamn stuffy, and elitist, but at the same time, it can be a wonderful community at the same time. And hopefully that's one thing kind of we've seen with COVID is I feel like a lot of bands have been less, like, competitive and more like, yo, if you're doing well, then, like, good for you. Like, it's kind of weird how competitive bands can be, or the scene or community can be about, like, hey, we want to sell more tickets, or you don't deserve to sell that many tickets, when instead it's like, if, like, Tom from Stray, when we toured Europe with them, he's like, what does it matter if the Devil Wears Prada is the biggest band in the world to Stray from the Path, and what's it matter to the Devil Wears Prada if Stray from the Path is the biggest band on earth? Yeah. Like, it works great for everybody. So I don't know, I think it's a wholesome and worthwhile notion to acknowledge that community and the variety and different cultures and different backgrounds coming around, just lose your brain for a little while listening to zombie songs. Definitely.
So before we go, I want to thank you so much for your time. Round 3 with you, round 4 with Devil Wears Prada. Is there just anything else that you would like to promote for this tour with Stray from the Path and Dying Wish and the Color Decay that you're allowed to say? Of course, this will be uploaded by midnight. So if there's like a tour scheduled for the summer of 2023, don't say it here.
Yeah, we'll be busy on the road again next year. We're very excited. Come out and check out the Color Decay tour. We're just 7 days in, so we got a number of weeks still to go, heading out west and everything. To our overseas listeners and consumers, we'll be over there with Wage War for the rest of the year, and then probably writing more tunes before hitting the road again in the spring. So thank you for always having me. Thank you for not having dumbass questions.
Thank you.
And yeah, we'll have a good one here in New York again tonight.
It's easy when I could say I've been listening to you guys for half my life now, so it's easy to have a conversation.
It gets there. I've now been playing in Prada for half my life, so yeah. It's an easy perspective to kind of shift into.
Yeah, I remember one band that like kind of was getting notoriety around the same time was Escape the Fate, and I interviewed Craig Mabbitt, and he says, dude, the weirdest thing I've ever heard in my career is, dude, I've been listening to you since I was 12. Can I buy you a drink? So
True. Yeah. True. Yeah.
But thank you so much, everybody. We are here with Mike of the Devil Wears Prada, Color Decay. Be sure to pick it up. We will see you next time on Heavy New York.